last night. What a game. Monday night in Jacksonville. Clearly, we kicked it off with all of our great
We've heard more Duvals in the last 6 months because of Liam Cohen's not great Duval and obviously been being 4-1.
You know what? It didn't matter. He wasn't great at the Duval. He's a pretty great coach. Dan, Mina, Marcus Spears is here as well. Tons of reaction to that game coming. We're going to get to it. There's the wave. That means we can officially start. We have breaking news. The Bengals are trading for Joe Flacco. Cincinnati gives up a 5th-round pick and gets a 6th-rounder and the quarterback for the Browns. Flacco is Cincinnati's quarterback until Joe Burrow can return from his turf toe injury. I'll be completely honest here. When this happened, we had some interesting reactions texting each other. Dan, what do you think of this move? We'll start with you.
Why? Why, if you're the Bengals, with that offensive line, this offensive line has been bad for years. It still is bad. It's been mitigated by Joe Burrow. Joe Flacco is not going to be the person to overshadow that. And then the other thought was, do they in Cincinnati think that Joe's coming back? Like, is this the move that signifies, no, they have belief that Joe is going to come back maybe mid to late November, and they're just trying to keep themselves in the race. So when he comes back, if they can get on that final 4 or 5 game run and get into the playoffs. But this one's odd to me.
Even if that is the goal, this isn't the right quarterback to get there. I understand that there's a dearth of options, but to your point, Joe Flacco was terrible under pressure. In fact, dead last in the NFL in QBR under pressure. QBR of 3. The Bengals' offensive line is even worse than Cleveland's, and they don't have a run game. Cleveland actually has a run game. So I understand that Jake Browning hasn't been good, but I failed to see the upgrade here. I know people are going to say, well, who else? But at least try to capture some upside, potentially. I just don't see the upside in this move.
Yeah, I agree. The perplexing thing for me was that Jake Browning has been here. Like, are you going to get better with Joe Flacco? And then you said it, and we've been talking about it, how bad the Cincinnati Bengals offensive line has been. But I contend always, any offensive line lining up in shotgun 60 times a game is probably going to look bad in 2025's NFL, especially with Joe Flacco with an immobile quarterback. Like, this the guy you go to based on all of the problems that you've seen. I don't know if it's an understanding. I don't know if you think he can get the ball out quicker. I don't know what this move was about. But the first thing I thought about was, okay, let's bring in a statue to stand behind the offensive line that gets the quarterbacks hit and then get better.
Yeah. I don't know why it's not a younger, more athletic option. Now, maybe they did. In their defense, maybe they made some calls for a younger player that's maybe a little bit more athletic to try to mitigate it. But this move doesn't feel like it's a upgrade remotely from Jake Browning. I know Jake Browning's turned the football over, but at least he's way more mobile.
Yeah, I would have. I mean, look, man, mobility, it's better, but I would have. This should have been Jameis Winston.
Yeah.
Or even Russell Wilson. I just don't get the Flacco part of it. I don't get it.
Well, okay, from the Brown side of things.
We down on this one, y'all.
After trading Joe Flacco, we're perplexed. To the Bengals, Dylan Gabriel, Shedeur Sanders are the 2 remaining quarterbacks on the Browns roster. Dylan Gabriel showed some promise even in a loss. Bailey Zappi is on Cleveland's practice squad. That's that. Let's move on. Let's go back to last night because this is a whole lot more fun than that conversation. All right, Patrick Mahomes, the Kansas City Chiefs, taking on Trevor Lawrence and the Jacksonville Jaguars. Third quarter, Jags trail 14-7. Lawrence launches a pass to Travis Hunter. What a catch.
Ridiculous job by Travis Hunter of just tracking the football. That's like that athleticism, that ball skill, the instincts that we often talk about with athletes. That's a very special, very difficult catch.
And how about Lawrence here? It felt like Spags didn't have a great
This is
plan
really
for
interesting.
the running ability
The Ravens
of Trevor
trading
Lawrence.
away. Odafe sending the former first-rounder to LA to play with the Chargers. Oweh in the final year of his current deal. And then the Ravens get safety Alohi Gilman in return. The teams also swapped late-round picks. Mina, this really sticks out to you as a fascinating football move. Why? Yeah, it tells us a lot about what these teams think about their needs and their roster. So, from the Charger standpoint, let's start here. Gilman was a starter, and I thought he was playing well this year. But they must have felt with CLE Mack hurt. They desperately needed pass rush, and they like Elijah Molden to fill in on the back end. Meanwhile, on the Ravens side, they got needs everywhere. This to me is a vote of confidence in Mike Green. Maybe the second round a pass rusher that they drafted this season. But now you have more safety depth. You have Starks Hamilton is injured, but he'll come back. It's not a serious injury. I wonder with the issues that they're having at linebacker if they think we're going to play, I don't know, more big nickel more. They might have to mix up their looks in the back end. But this is a really fascinating move from a Ravens pass rush that has not been getting after the quarterback. Yeah, from a right now perspective, if you look at the teams that are playing at a level that will be in the playoffs in the AFC, the teams that jump out are Buffalo, Indianapolis, firmly believe Kansas City is going to get there. Jacksonville, they're all a little bit more run-centric than they are pass-centric. Now, Kansas City kind of on that line. This for Baltimore on the outside of looking in playoff-wise right now, I don't think it does anything for their run defense, which has been an issue. Yeah, their secondary has been a problem as well. I don't know if it changes that much. Really quick, there's a little bit of a long-term aspect here. They exercised those fifth-year option. This suggests clearly that they didn't want to give him a big contract next year. So maybe the feeling was like he's going to walk. Let's get a good player. They had safety Gilman. Aloha Gilman and CJ Garner-Johnson, right? Yes, they did. Yeah, they're making safeties really. You guys think the Harbaugh brothers got on the phone to make this transpar? That's really funny. The nitty-gritty is so interesting. All right, elsewhere in the AFC. Let's talk a little bit more. Not expected much from this AFC South this season. And then look at this. The Texans had the best chance to make the playoffs entering the season at just north of 50%. But a pair of 4-1 starts from the Colts and the Jaguars have both put themselves in great playoff position. We haven't seen multiple playoff teams from the AFC South since the 2020 season. Mina, we've talked about Shane Stein and Daniel Jones turning around the Colts offense. But how has this Colts defense changed? Man, they're not the best defense in the NFL, but they're one of the most interesting this year. And obviously, defensive coordinator Loano was a big part of why. Dan, a couple things jump out. A lot jumps out to me, but two things. One is just the ability to change game to game and individually game plan for opponents. I know you're going to get into that, but like last 2 weeks, man, like you go from the Rams. Obviously, you're playing a ton of zone against them because you're worried about them beating you over the top. Then in the first half against Las Vegas, team without Brock Bowers or much threat receiver, 70% man coverage. So that flexibility is something that Lon Romo has really brought to a unit that you remember under Gus Bradley pretty much just played cover 3. Then the other thing I wanted to highlight, they throw so much at you in pressures like different styles of pressures. On the simulated pressures they use simulated pressures at the 5th highest rate in the NFL this year. You saw that both Geno interceptions. One was the tip ball. They had the edges dropping out all game long, flustering the Raiders' offensive line. And then they're also blitzing their DBs at the 5th highest rate in football. And that was really useful against the Rams. They play a lot of condensed formations. The sending their corners and safeties at Stafford really rattled them. So look, this Colts team is going to be playing in January. They have one of the best individual game planning defensive coordinators in football in recent history. That's a big deal when you start thinking about those matchups. Totally agree. And I think defensively it's like watching a defense call plays like an offense. Like there's always answers to the questions that offenses can in many ways propose to. This is that reduced split stuff up top. It looked like the nickel is going to be the pressure guy. Then the motion comes, and that safety kicks down 1 yard, and he becomes the trigger guy unblocked, and there's a TFL. This is 'cause that defensive line doesn't slant. So that's not a called run stunt. That's an answer to the pressure down in the red zone. They're not really showing zero here, but it comes at the snap. Couple things. They don't allow themselves to get picked in man coverage. They're always running over the top of things. And then they're well coached and understanding if you don't get there, mirror the throwing hand. That's a left hand. This is the red zone one you're talking about, MK. Both slots are uncovered. So, as a quarterback, you're like, what's going on? It turns into this three-man rush with both droppers. But when you look at it, it's a zone defense that has match principles. And once again, hands batted because those defensive linemen know you're not going to get home. You're going to impact the play because of the coverage. I think that's all attached to as a defense. You're not just getting calls anymore. It's not like, hey, we're playing over covered 3. It seems like, and I heard McAfee talk about this with the new ownership, listening into the play calls, that the defense is getting 2, 3 for calls a play, and they're making the call dependent upon the personnel and the formation. Wow, that's how you just did that. That's now a pantomime show. But we're no longer talking. I love, no. Both of y'all are right. I love the corner pressure. MK, you brought it up, and it reminds me of when Louis Anarumo was obviously in Cincinnati, and he would use Mike Hilton in this way to speed things up for quarterbacks. But this was the one that I enjoyed the most, is bringing this slot corner off, pressuring Geno, and fooling him into thinking that vacated area was going to be his hot read. I think they do a phenomenal job, like you said, Dan, calling plays like an offense to dictate and determine where the ball is going to go, and then having his guys make plays on it. But that was one of those plays that reminded me of when we talked about the Cincinnati Bengals going to Kansas City and having a tremendous